Go.
With one exception standing head and shoulders above the rest. A lot of really fast times out there, but Mark McCormick, 2:56.6 so far, with only about 10 minutes left in qualifying here, and he is flying out there. The rest of the drivers, 2:58 or worse, struggling to keep up. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone finds anything on the long term to compete with Mark today. That being said, it looks like we'll have a close race all the way up and down the grid, with an exception there. Because we've got groups in 2:58s, 2:59s, and even the 3-minute range that ought to give each other a run for the money.
So welcome to VIR West for the second round of the ChampCar iRacing season this year. As Devin has said, qualifying just underway, 16 rounds once again this season. A couple of new tracks. We started at Road Atlanta, familiar territory, where Zuhao Liu came away with the win, but it was super competitive there. That was in the Ford Mustang FR 500S, making its first appearance in the championship this season. We're back to old reliable NC Mazda MX-5 Miata Cup car for a couple rounds. We're also going to see the Jetta and the Pontiac Solstice this season. One or two other new tracks in there as well. What are some of the other new tracks we'll be going to this season, Devin?
We've got a full schedule this year. Let me just pull it up. Looks like we've got races coming up at Summit Point and Daytona, as well as Lime Rock and Sonoma, which are both fan favorites, of course. Watkins Glen, Montreal, Laguna Seca, another trip back to VIR, COTA, Mid-Ohio, Road America, Mosport, another trip back to VIR, this time for VIR North, before we finish the season at Sebring. So we're going to visit many of the tracks that I think we're excited to see on the real racing schedule with ChampCar this year. And I know that I'm really looking forward to the racing at Lime Rock. If we keep on having grids of 35 plus cars out, it should be very busy by the time we get there. But you know what? I'm always most excited about the racing that we get to do today. So I'm really interested to see how these guys are going to manage to handle the inside of this challenging course here at VIR, because it's certainly a set of corners that I think most of these folks probably haven't had many opportunities to race around.
Yeah, certainly not. I think it's one that doesn't get wheeled out that often, at least in competitive racing. The Grand West layout, of course, it makes a sharp right turn off the back stretch. after the South Paddock pits, cuts all the way through the Patriot course, and then rejoins right at the top of the roller coaster, and then drops down through that famous section and onto the pit straight. Then it goes. There's 5 minutes left in qualifying, and that doesn't mean a lot of laps, because we are, of course, seeing lap times around about the 3-minute mark.
And we got a couple drivers testing out the runoff area there. That's Alex Albert, and it looked like the green car. I didn't catch that one. But anyway, testing out some of that famous runoff area off the front straight at VIR. I've heard that they're making some changes out there, maybe putting a guardrail in on the far end like we see in the simulator here. Should be exciting to see some real fast cars lapping VIR. I'm assuming that's why they're making those modifications.
Yeah, I saw a map of where they've added new guardrail opposite to the pit lane on the front straight.
And I think FIA had heard a few too many stories about cars getting lost in the woods in the night. Didn't want to deal with any of that if they bring something there.
LMDH to VIR, I'm calling it.
I'm in. Sign me up. I'll even camp in the tent. But yeah, should be great racing when that finally goes down.
So just a reminder then, Devon, that there's many reasons people are racing with us today, across just wanting to hang out, do some racing together against some fellow ChampCar members. There's always a great opportunity to practice some of the tracks that the Real World Series goes to. Then we've also got some very, very handy prizes once again this season.
Yeah, we are pleased to be able to offer, once again, thank you ChampCar, $1,500 to the overall winner this season, as well as $1,500 to one of these lucky members that manages to show up for at least 12 of the 16 rounds and complete 50% of the laps when they show up. And it should be a big group. There's a lot of ways you can enter a raffle out there, but I can say I can't think of many that for the low cost of $3.95 you can enter and have the shot at winning about 1 in 20 or 1 in 30 chance of winning a $1,500 prize that you can put towards your favorite thing, racing. And it's champ bucks, so no one can even swoop in and tell you that you got to spend that $1,500 somewhere else. It's got to be racing. What a great deal.
Yeah, indeed. Devon, is it too late to join?
Well, it's a good thing you've asked, because the answer is no. Of course, we're always accepting new members to come out and race and have a good time, and you don't even have to commit to the full season. But you can find all the information that you need to sign up just by heading over to the forums at ChampCar and looking for that iRacing section, which is right there off the top. We've got information about how to get set up on iRacing, how to join the league, and even some people that are posting tips on how to go a little bit faster once you're out on track, because though we do find that the really experienced sim racers transition really, really easily into the real cars, finding the feel on the brakes and stuff like that can take a few tries for folks who have more of a real racing background moving into the sim. But overcoming that is definitely something that's possible, and we see more and more racers like Nick Love here that we're watching on the broadcast coming from the real side and spending more and more time on the virtual side, getting that really valuable practice time and polishing those skills. As we watch them fly it around the infield there.
Yeah, quite tight and technical, as well as the elevation change and even some blind corners infield.
Mm-hmm. And the nice thing about the virtual racing is that with the way we set things up, we're generally having that fixed setup. There's no real edge to be gained by showing up and tweaking tire pressures or spring rates, which you can do in the sim. So it means that you can show up and put in maybe a little bit of practice time in the evening, chat with the guys, and hang out and have a good time, and then join in on the race. without worrying about losing too much time from the real race car. I can feel ours calling my name from the garage right now.
Nick Love is probably not going to improve on that lap as he extends the track limits just a little bit. Always good to have a handful of drivers where you see them on the sim, you recognize that car from the real world. So Love Racing, Nick Love, and a bunch of his buddies.
Yeah, I got that really, distinct livery, looking really good on all those team cars. We saw some really fun liveries at the first round with that Bullet Mustang showing up. Really nice throwbacks. And then I'm really pleased to see Mark McCormick jumping back into that sort of famed livery that he ran last season, the Whammo livery that he lived up to on a couple of occasions. So here's hoping that we'll have a clean race. But I think all of us enjoyed a little when there's some controversy too.
So then just recapping after round one, how we stand, see how Lou came out on top in a podium completed by Mark McCormick and Alex Coffard at Road Atlanta. And it was Alex Albert, Simon Foweather, Nick Love, Aaron Smith, Shane Cameron, Ian Giebler, and Jordan Butler. Well, we got Jordan Butler back. Do we have Aaron Smith around?
And you
Nick
know
Love's definitely back. I think Simon Foweather's definitely back.
And you know what I've just noticed? In 11th place, Zihao Lu snuck in a little bit late to the session today, but really put some pressure on Mark McCormick at last week's, or at the last race anyway. And it would be interesting to see if he can put some of that skill and find his way back through the top 10 and give McCormick another run for his money.
So the checkered flag's out on qualifying, but everyone gets to complete their lap. Like we said, it is a big lap here. So it takes a while for everyone to come back around. And in fact, it is about 200 feet longer than Mount Panorama Bathurst around this layout of VIR Grand West. So that's almost just a slight on my country.
All they need to do is put driveways to the edge of the track and walls right up against the edge of it, and it's pretty much the same, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too far.
And of course, I'd suggest that the infield here at VIR Grand West even more slow and technical than even many of the segments of Mount Panorama Circuit. So not only does it add some length to this track, but it certainly adds a lot of time to weave and dive your way through the infield on the Patriot course of VIR Grand West. So as that checkered flag waves, many drivers have taken it already and are probably making their final preparations for the race. It involves opening up a can or two, or having a snack, or whatever it may be. Mark McCormick is at the top of the qualifying handily. Nick Love, good time there for second. Justin Hall, third at the minute. 35 cars is not a bad turnout, I think, for this layout of VIR Grand West. In fact, I think if we went to the South Course, as we had in previous seasons, would 35 even make it to the grid? There's quite a significant grid limitation to that short pit lane for the South Course, which I think one of the things, as well as just keeping it fresh, that sort of necessitated us to deviate a little bit from the real world ChampCar schedule for the Sim series.
Mm-hmm. And the
well, we won't
infield, or one of the downsides of the simulator is that we can't run pit lane stalls too wide the way we do in the real world. So you end up with a few less spots than you might get otherwise.
So moments away from gridding up, and what a gridding up it's going to be, because our drivers make a full formation lap at slightly crawling pace car speeds, around what we've mentioned is a bit over 4 miles. So this is a pace lap that's probably going to rival some people's commute.
Should be a good time, but it'll give us plenty of time to go through this entire grid. And you know what? I bet you we can even go through the field and look at some of the nice liveries and team colors that are on display today out there.
Pace car speed's 55 miles an hour, so there's probably some lucky people out there whose commute averages about that speed. So the grid, there's 2 minutes for them to grid, and then a full pace lap, and then we drop the green flag. No option to truncate that for VIR Grand West. But Mark McCormick, your reigning champion, has pole position. He's put in the practice, and he seems very, very confident around this new circuit to the ChampCar iRacing series. Then Nick Love in second. He's one to spend quite a bit of time on the sim too. I've actually been watching some of his onboards from Carolina Motorsports Park lately. So he loves driving an MX-5, and that was also a moderately technical course. The second row is Justin Hall and Alex Albert. I think we spotted them together in that qualifying session, Devon.
Yeah, they definitely weren't the only ones doing some very close drafting. And I think the difference between Alex Albert and Justin Hall was actually just a little bit of draft and when all was said and done. So the two of them were certainly working together, as was Nick Love with some of his team cars.
David Martin, 25. Wow, imagine sharing your iRacing username with that many people, he says, as I need to thank producer Kyle Smith for jumping in slightly late notice to make sure that we can bring you this coverage of the ChampCar iRacing season. He's one of 50, 60 people sharing that name on iRacing, but he's one of the originals. It's Kyle Smith 8 or something like that. So good to have David Martin on the third row of the grid, which he's sharing with Ian Giebler, a name and a drive that we've seen several times in past years in the ChampCar iRacing series. Got Chris Flamion from Chicago, and Jordan Butler, who said was in the top 10 at Road Atlanta 2 weeks ago. He's now qualified again into the top 10 in 8th. So could be a pretty competitive grid there.
Yeah, he's got that orange and black livery too, so I gotta wonder if he's a Bengals fan and still a bit hungover from the weekend, maybe.
I wasn't watching that particular sports match, which is probably heresy to say, but anyway, the grid behind, the row behind, Andrew Kosick is going to be on the inside of row 5, alongside Tim Wire, always in a bumblebee kind of livery there. That's your top 10 on the grid.
Charles Kowalczyk is 11th with Zihao Liu, as we mentioned, in 12th. Actually losing a spot there to Charles right at the end of qualifying. Sean Sputra, 13th. Another one of those Love racing cars. He and Charles Kowalczyk lined up in team colors and nose to tail. Shane Cameron in the huge ass livery, running in 14th place. Jesse Elliott, 15th. Jay Sofianek in the red, white, and blue car there, 16th. Lee Muehlman and David Warden, 17th and 18th.
Oh, you're not going to say anything about Lee Muehlman's livery?
I haven't gotten there yet. How's it look?
I don't want to be too braggadocious about my own work.
I'm going to have to reload because it looks like it's pretty gray and pretty orange to me. Oh no, red, my bad. Next up, Mark Kruger running that FLR SCCA car. Greg Vandevert in the pink, green, and blue livery. Not sure I've seen one of those before. Very loud. Patrick Persley with some of the nicest alliteration on the grid, outside of maybe Alex Albert, running in a baby blue car. with Thomas McGinn with the K&N sponsored car. K&N facing the right way on the right-hand side of the car and facing backwards on the left-hand side of the car. Neil Hancock in the 56, orange-gray. David Palermo. And they're just coming down into the spiral here. One of my favorite details about the scan on this track is that you can see all the gouges that cars have taken out of the track with their undersides as they go over that hill down into the spiral. Scott Grinnell in 25th, lining up alongside Brandon Marshall. Two really nice liveries there back in the grid. Brandon Marshall in particular running that purple-yellow combo. Jared Cubitt in 27th and Raymond Muratori in 28th. That's a new name for the series. Alan Wells in 29th. Cory Barrett running 30th in the 69 car, sponsored by Wax Racing. I think that's how you have to say it when it's, got that kind of font. Got Jerry Barvinick in 31st, Aaron Lineman in 32nd, and then two non-starters, Ethan Lamp. Just one non-starter, Ethan Lamp, not taking the grid, but Alex Crawford happy to take a spot, and Aaron Thorpe as well. The two of them opting to line up at the back of the grid, maybe to avoid some chaos at the start.
Well, there you go. We're nearly there. Pace car in, and I don't think Mark McCormick is hanging around. I think he's got us underway pretty quickly here for round 2 of the ChampCar iRacing Series in 2022, leading him down towards turn 1. Cold tyre is not going to be a huge issue, but still something the drivers will need to think about when they apply the brake pedal for the first time in racing conditions. Very sharp and twisting turn 1, leader through cleanly. The rest of the pack behind through cleanly so far. It is a big grid. It is often a significant concertina effect there, but your leader going early has strung them out a bit. I think if anything, Nick Love in second, feeling a bit of the pressure early goings as they go single file through the familiar opening sector. Still a while before they deviate from the regular full course and onto the Grand West.
Back to the grid is shaken out pretty clean so far. I haven't seen anyone facing the wrong way, though things are tight up and down the field for sure as they all try to filter through those lower S's.
Got to think one to watch on this start here might be Zhihao Lu. Starting out of 12th, lost a spot, maybe wasn't ready for the start that we got. He brings them up through the climbing S's. And he's looking at Wire and Cossack in front as they're going to all break through the Oak Tree. Tough section there as you go uphill, the track ever tightening around the Oak Tree that we miss.
Really good run for him through Oak Tree there. And he was saying in the pre-race chat that this is not a track that he's very familiar with. He did, I believe he came out for the practice race, but maybe didn't quite get as much practice between then and now as he would have liked. Certainly not as much as the front of the grid must have been doing to set some of the lap times they did in qualifying.
So it's a big braking zone to take them through the basically hairpin right-hander onto the infield section there, and Zhihao Lu does pick up a spot. He's back to 12th, still plenty of time to go in this one for him to maybe try to go back-to-back wins in this championship. Prove he's not just Road Atlanta master.
Early gainer so far. Sean Putra has made up 3 spots, putting himself up into 10th place after starting in 16th. And then looking even further down the grid, I actually see that Alex Crawford's made a run of it here at the start of the race, up 5 spots from his last place starting position. And another Virginia racer, got to think this is a local track for Brandon C. Marshall in car number 26. Brandon in a bit of a battle with Mark Kruger behind and Patrick Pursley ahead. Marshall listed as being from Virginia, so got to think that he's been here before with how well this opening lap is going for him.
Alex Crawford and Cory Barrett then battling over 27th and 28th. Alex Crawford does flips on purpose. Cory Barrett only when there's 18 volts. Through the final sector they go. We're about to complete our first lap. Oh, Barrett gets a bit wide at the hog pen there. Nearly gets the grass, and if you do get some grass on the exit of the hog pen there, well, Right now in the modern world, you might find some Armco, but here on the sim and the layout that many of us have been familiar with, you can end up a long way away from the track, off in the outfield there. Coffard is going to give Barrett just a little bit of a bump as they approach the braking zone. What is going on there? Barrett does run a little wide. Coffard's going to look back underneath. I don't think there was malice there. I think he was just saying hello.
Yeah, these two have raced a lot of times with each other, so I got to think that that was a friendly love tap, as friendly as they ever are.
Bit of racecraft on display there as he goes over-under through NASCAR and left hook, but he's not able to effect and complete the pass just yet.
Cory did a really nice job of holding that line, and Alex Carford's got to be twiddling his thumbs a bit as he tries to find his way around and hopes to make up some ground, to Raymond, who's driving away from them up the road. Real tight as they get into the upper S's here.
Probably not a place I want to be bump drafting or be bump drafted climbing through the S's here.
Alex Albert's gone off at Oak Tree. That was from 3rd place, and it looks to me like he's going to be running closer to 10th after all is said and done. We'll take it back here for you. As he was coming down into that really hot braking zone into Oak Tree there, he just got in a little too deep, 2 tires off, 4 tires off, and bounced it off the tire barrier. Doesn't look like it caused any permanent damage, but it might have caused some permanent damage to the outcome of this race for him.
I don't think that front left is quite perfect, and it has slotted him back to 10th. Cormac in the lead. Nick Love's still running with him, but that's opened up a pretty big gap. It's a pretty big gap, a little bit of a gap between 2nd and 3rd. Top 2 breaking away as they're on that Patriot course right now. That infield of Virginia International Raceway, and soon to break back out and to the roller coaster. That looks like a section, I think, where Mark McCormick is really showing his strength compared to everyone else, because the rest of the circuit, I think a lot of our field are very well familiar with, but how to exactly extract the maximum and consistently from this car on that infield, that seems where McCormick is finding time to everyone else.
Yeah, and it is, it is a tricky section. I'd almost go so far as to say it's a little bit of an awkward section of the track. It's really intended, from what I understand, to be used as a training circuit. A lot of law enforcement types sort of doing work out there, and so maybe not quite intended for the speeds that these guys are taking it at, but they're certainly doing the best of it. And right after the spiral, when they go through that little left switchback, man, do they put 2 tires up in the air. So it's really a risk-reward kind of section of the track too. Mark McCormick's put in the fastest lap there, though. You've just seen it flash past the screen, 2:57. But we're joining in on the battle here for 5th place, or even 6th place, actually. Ian Giebler, Jordan Butler, Charles Kowalczyk, and even Sean Saputra, a second love car there, are all sort of lined up nose to tail, coming out of the lower S's, looking like they could have some action as we head up. It's real fast straight away.
Jordan Butler's getting defensive through that first sector, and he'll look in his mirrors and he will see 2 Love racing cars, Charles Kowalczyk and Sean Saputra, both of whom have been on the move. And Kowalczyk is in the position here to really make some attack. That's wide.
Well, dangerous to go on the outside.
Bend.
Nicely held, though. I can speak from personal experience. You go on the outside there, you can get squeezed off pretty easily, and find yourself facing the wrong way at the far end of the grass.
So it's still an overtaking opportunity on the back straight here. It's not quite as long as the full course, but it is a pretty heavy braking zone that you get 2/3, almost 3/4 of the way down into this right-hand hairpin that they all navigate now. So they battle here. You do see Alex Albert and Jihao Lu closing in on the back of this. 2 drivers, a lot of winning pedigree in this championship, and they're both ranging up on this Jordan Butler, Ian Giebler, Charles Kowalczyk, Sean Saputra battle. Something happened to Nick Love.
He's off. He's off the track. I don't know where he's gone.
I think we got a Just might be technical coming and going for Nick Love. I haven't seen him find the wall or any problem like that. I hope he can stay with us and stay on the server. But that is not necessarily a great sign for Nick Love. The longer it goes on, you wonder if maybe he's on the same Verizon connection as Michael Derby.
Yeah, our usual producer getting knocked out, but like David mentioned, we have great help. Justin Hall is going to need some help here as David Martin makes a bit of an overtaking look before they head into Hogpen. Martin wisely lifts out and gets back in line. The two of them will need to work together if they want to have any hope of chasing down Mark McCormick now, you got to think, as he continues to put a gap at about 6 or 7 tenths a lap on the guys behind him. And remember, this is made even more impressive by the fact that this is a fixed setup race, so no real edge to be gained in terms of how the car is set up, and all of it's on the driver.
Getting the dreaded server disconnected due to incoming packet loss, aka no internet, no connection, for Nick Love. Dropped out of this race while running in second place. That is not only a big sting for him, but I think a loss for all of us in this race as well. He was very strong in that qualifying, going along with Mark McCormick in the lead. And it's got to be either an internet problem or a technical problem, no mistake of his own. He's either out of this race or losing laps right now.
Yeah, that's a real bummer for him. He'll be wishing that he had converted a few more points than he will end up converting out of this one. Checking back in on the field, though, I'm seeing that Xiao Lu and Alex Albert have now made their way right up to the back of Sean Saputra, and Saputra's actually gone all four off on the exit of turn 9 there, right before Oak Tree. And he puts it in deep. He repeats the mistake that Alex did, and then Alex goes off 2 tires as well. And then we've got another one off the track just beside him, too. That's David Martin, who's all crossed off from 3rd place. So all kinds of wrong going into Oak Tree that time. If it was real life, I'd say there was oil on the track, but I think everyone just got it a little bit wrong, racing a little bit too hard there. Zihao Lu now looking to make a move on Sean Saputra. No, sorry, that's Alex Albert looking to put a move on Zihao Lu, because Lu's got ahead of him after all the issues that Alex had.
And then the hairpin there, that's Jordan Butler catching some of the grass too, so he drops back some as well. This seems to be where the action is right now, 3rd through to 10th, led by Chris Flamion.
Mm-hmm. We'll need to get an onboard shot. You can kind of get a sense of the elevation change here, especially as we watch him sweep down through the spiral. But man, it is, they got the other corner called a roller coaster, but I think the spiral could give him a run for the money in terms of how rapidly the elevation drops and how quick you have to take it. Leaping across the apex of that left-hander in the middle there too. that's
big curbs, blind apexes, and a lot of commitment, and the practice is needed for this particular layout to know precisely where that track goes and how aggressively you can place the car. It does almost gain you time to be following someone else, like you can see where they go, where they brake, and use them as a reference as well.
Mm-hmm. For better, for worse, as Alex kind of found out earlier on that lap.
So a pit stop is going to be required from everyone in this race. Very, very few takers so far. Taker for the grass on the outside of the final corner on Hogpen there, though.
Yeah, that was Zihao Lu who took it a little bit wrong. I think looks to me like he just got into Hogpen a little bit hot and kind of took too much of that inside corner, and then kicked himself over that exit curb, and it really kind of drops away, the track does there, or at least the ground outside the track, and it kind of pulls you off as soon as you get 2 tires out there. So hard for him to overcome there. So things have gotten plenty shaked up. Chris Flamion now has a bit of a lead with Ian Giebler. And then we got Jordan Butler, Charles Gwalchik, Sean Saputra all kind of glued together. And then a little gap. And then 2 huge-ass cars actually nose to tail now. Alex Albert and Shane Cameron. And Cameron, on the back of some consistency, has driven himself all the way up from 14th place up into about 9th. So pretty solid effort from him there. And I think he'll be hoping to keep that momentum rolling forward.
Real gutsy move behind that as well, as heading towards the climbing S's. I think Jesse Elliott got past Andrew Kosick. So that is that's one of those moves where you've really got to carry a lot more speed, and not that the other guy's compliant, because that moves Jesse Elliott up into 11th, racing with Andrew Kosick now, and I'm sure they can see just up the road that battle going on. Flamian, Giebler, Kowalczyk, and Sean Saputra looks like he gets ahead of Jordan Butler, potentially, at least for the moment. Both of them all breaking super deep. Saputra's off the road.
Yeah, and Saputra kind of got deked out by his own teammate there. It looked like Kowalczyk was worried about holding the position, and so he kind of stayed wide and then juked in, juked out, and then in the end, Sean Saputra just had nowhere to go. He didn't know which way his teammate was going to go, and he took some avoiding action, ended up all four wheels off the track. The challenge of this track has really shown itself out here. It's it's tricky, and there's a lot of tough corners. There's a reason that one's got a spicy name. They're back to nose to tail. So now Shane Cameron is holding off Zihao Liu with Alex Albert just ahead, and Albert's right on Jordan Butler's bumper. And the two of them are going to be chasing down Charles Kowalczyk. So it really looks to me like everywhere from third place on back is pretty much up for grabs to whichever one of these guys decides they want to keep on track for the rest of the race first.
Laps don't tick off quickly, but the time ticks down. 45 minutes still to go in this one. Very, very few pit takers, only those potentially with damage, and it does seem like you do want to probably go long on this. Alex Albert right in the slipstream, that damage on the front left not appearing to hurt his straight line speed too much, but as the front stretch curves around a little bit to the right, gives Jordan Butler the opportunity to defend the inside into turn one. Breaks a lot earlier than Alex Albert, and I think almost lets him have that one, but Albert a little wide of the apex, and that's been a problem for him in this car so far in this race. And we've also seen Zihao Liu range up on Shane Cameron behind there as well. The action happening so far in this fifth on back battle right here.
And Jordan Butler there, it looked like he was a victim of a bit of a mugging going to that braking zone, to be honest, but not much of a surprise. Alex Albert has plenty of laps around VIR, calling this a home track. And am I hearing right that we got some update there on the Nicholas Love situation?
Yeah, jumps into the YouTube chat on HJBC to let us know that his Wi-Fi cut out, and he might typically plug in a network cable for these races, it sounds like. As top of the hill there, Jordan Butler runs a little wide once again, and Shane Cameron in sympathy follows him. They both get back on the track without too much problem, but Zihao going to catch them. Oh, not great drive off the oak tree either for Shane Cameron, and I think this is a great opportunity for Liu to slipstream up on him. Big braking zone at the end of this straight on this layout as well. Seems to be a strength of Liu, so he's going to get the inside. And this is for 8th place. Takes a bit to scare Shane Cameron. I think, though, that Liu is going to get that position back, and he's now +4 in this race. Remember, he's the championship leader going into this. Second place was Mark McCormick, and McCormick is running away with the lead right now, so this is going to be interesting for the championship if Liu lets McCormick get away with a big points result.
Yeah, and it really did come down to, last season, it came down not to who had the most wins, because they were pretty much tied by the end of it, but it came down to what those other finishes looked like. With the way the point structure set up here, 12 races, your best 12 races counting, and only 16 rounds in total, there's going to be a limited number of wins to go around. So maximizing your off weeks, your bad weeks, is going to be really key for a guy like Zihao, who's got to be thinking big picture already after that first week win.
Yeah, and of course we spoke to him 2 weeks ago after that race, and he definitely indicated to us at that time that he was interested in running a lot more of the races on the schedule this season. And true to his word, here he is of the Ford Mustang FR500S, and into maybe the first time we've seen him. No, not the first time we've seen him in the Mazda MX-5, because that's the car that we'd used at Road Atlanta in previous seasons. So we'll slipstream each other down the pit straight once again. Lou maybe next to try to mug Jordan Butler. Not close enough in the braking zone, but I think Butler does run a little bit deep, and this is an opportunity for Lou in the next couple of corners to try to make a move.
I love this corner, right before NASCAR here. It's such a tricky corner because there's about 4 ways to do it right, especially with the extended curves that they got on there in real life now. Not represented in the sim yet. Of course, the scan predates that, but even without that extra racing room, there's about 4 ways to do it right and about 50 ways to do it wrong that end up with you putting all 4 tires off the edge of the track. So really, really tough combo to judge, especially when you're following close behind someone. See how Lou, speaking of following close behind someone, is right up behind Jordan Butler. Real confident.
And this is one of those places Butler's had problems running wide through this sector multiple times. There's a big check up ahead.
Yeah, Alex Albert had to get out of it.
Was having a look at Kowalczyk, and that went nowhere. Now all of them checked up again through the oak tree. That checks up the exit for Butler. I think Lou was just a little more patient through there. He'll have another chance and another opportunity. Great fight here. Good to see plenty of respectful racing. Is there just a car width to the right? There is for Lou, and he's going to try right now. But it means that Butler on the left-hand side and on the racing line has a slipstream off Albert. That's not going to matter when they come into the braking zone. Shane Cameron barreling into the braking zone. Can't miss him in the red rims. And he almost misses the corner though, but he stays on track. Lou plus 5 positions now. They're all forming up behind Kowalczyk in 5th, who's also plus 6 positions in this race. So decent grid. Have had a few fall to the wayside, and it's meant some big gainers right here.
Yeah, and consistency really the name of the game, So some of these fast guys are now having to get back some of the guys that they let by when they made mistakes. But there's certainly no shortage of pressure on those guys to get out of the way. By the looks of things, Alex Albert glued to Charles Kowalczyk yet again.
Yeah, 3-car. It's almost on a string here. It's a roller coaster. Albert's feeling a bit gutsy, but I think, again, that's one of those things, compromises you on the way down the hill and towards the hog pen here, but he's showing his nose early. And understandably, there is a number of drivers then in his mirrors putting the pressure on him if he can't get past right on immediately. Any pit callers? No?
Yeah, I haven't seen any yet.
So, looking down towards turn 1, close enough for a dive on the brakes if you're Alex Albert, and he's going to. It's one of the easiest places to make a clean pass. See how Lou wants part of that as well, and I think he's just going to pull that off. So Kowalczyk gets mugged for at least one spot. Going to try to put up a fight for that other one. And see how Lou, but he'll find himself on the outside for the next 2 corners. That's a bit of a losing position.
Man, that was a gorgeous move by Zihao Lu, though. I'm not sure the broadcast did it any justice, but he had maybe a foot of clearance on Charles Kowalczyk as they crossed over in the middle of that corner. But he was real confident on the brakes, and he just rode it out wide, slammed the door shut. There was no doubt in my mind that was going to work out as they passed Alan Wells here, who is going a lap down, giving these guys plenty of space as he learns his way around out here.
So great battle back here. Lou is right with and following some tight lines behind Alex Albert. So I don't think the pressure is done for Albert in this group. You've got Kowalczyk, Butler, and Shane Cameron trying to hang with. Oh, Albert's done it again. Too deep into the hog tree, catches the grass. Lou is through. Kowalczyk's back through. Butler, I think, is going to get past. And Shane Cameron giving no favours to Albert as well. Worked so hard into turn 1 on the lap to grab some positions, and then Oak Tree just a couple corners later gives it all back up again.
Oh, and that's heartbreak. I mean, Alex Albert has got to be just hot mad underneath that helmet. Oh, and a little bit of contact there with Shane Cameron as he gets checked up. But yeah, he's got high expectations on an average day. And when you come to your favorite track at home and in a car that's not unlike your own, yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow.
It's a good thing Miata spares are hardly in short supply at the track because there's now a couple dented panels, both Cameron and Elliott.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of some dents, I think something must have happened to Justin Hall. I didn't catch what it was, but it looks like Ian Giebler and Chris Flamion are suddenly making up a lot of ground, and that battle for third place might soon turn into a battle for second place as they keep making up time on Justin Hall in second place.
Yeah, we'll see briefly what this lap time was from Justin Hall, but even his last lap was 3 minutes 1 second to Giebler 2:59.
And then commentators curse. Of course, Chris Flamion goes flying off the exit of Hog Pen because we start talking about him.
And another 3-1 from Hall. So Giebler 2 laps in a row has pulled more than a second out of Hall. Maybe the tyres, maybe the focus or something going away from Justin Hall. Giebler's running, the best laps he ever has. He's really just getting into the zone 25 minutes in. Jesse Elliott looks like one of the first drivers who's going to make that scheduled pit stop. So, reminder, the drivers don't start with enough fuel on board to make it to the end. They got to stop at some point to add some more, but it's a pretty flexible pit window. You can pit almost early as you want and still be able to add enough to get to the end. So, Elliott, Mark Kruger. Any others? I think we had a stop from David Martin 3 laps ago.
Yeah, Martin's stop was one of those scheduled-ish ones after he had those issues going off track. Maybe in my mind he was just looking for some clean track to race on because I think he was getting tired of the battling. Speaking of the battling, Zihao Liu is under some threat here as we've got Charles Kowalczyk right up behind him through the upper S's. And they're going to maybe make it too wide into Oak Tree, depending on how this goes. Now Kowalczyk has to scrub a bit, but now Jordan Butler's making up some ground on him as they go into this tight right-hander.
And again, you see how costly it can be if you get in too deep there. Everyone keeps it off the grass, but you can't pass in the middle of the corner. And Butler's checked himself up, getting pretty close to Charles Kowalczyk, who kind of parked it to straighten it up for a good exit. Behind them, Cameron and Elliott. What is Alex Albert going to do? Can he try to affect the pass down the end of the straight here? Oh, just helps Shane Cameron down the inside of Jordan Butler. Is that a team maneuver? I don't think so. Cameron almost eases Jordan Butler across onto the curb. This is where things get tight in the infield here. A little narrower than the rest of the course, a little more unsighted. Butler's got the inside and more help this time. It sends him around. Sean Saputra has to dive through the inside, and Alex Albert, he came to almost a complete stop there. And that caught out a surprise for
Andrew Kosick.
Andrew Kosick.
Yeah, I think Alex Albert was trying to do the gentlemanly thing and give the spot back to Shane Cameron because he's a team car, but unfortunately that ended up costing Andrew Kosick. But I have very important news. To share with you, David Haynes. We've been calling Jordan Butler by the wrong name. He goes by Jeeves. So we need to keep that in mind as we see Jeeves closing back up on Charles Kowalczyk after a great bit of evasive driving to dodge Shane Cameron in the ditch there. He's made up some ground and is now tight with Charles Kowalczyk and Zihao Liu, who are seemingly going to be the new breakaway for 5th position.
So he's not been getting as much love this race as others because Mark McCormick is 15 seconds clear of the rest of the field. He dodged pit lane this time, which means he's going to go to at least the halfway point of the race. It's your defending champion with a 15-second lead. The battles have been all behind him. Justin Hall still holding on to that second despite losing time a couple laps in a row to Ian Giebler. Zihao Liu, Charles Kowalczyk, Jordan Butler all carry on. Kosick and Shane Cameron are going to battle now that Shane Cameron's gotten facing the right way after getting just a bit too much love from Alex Albert.
Speaking of Alex Albert,
he's on pit lane, pitting now, and probably some of that, just a little bit of damage, just reset as well, refocus, because it just looked a little sloppy today.
Yeah, hasn't been up to the usual standard that we expect out of him, and a relatively long pit stop there. Interesting to see. we'll have to get a little bit more data to determine just how long it was. But one of the disadvantages of pitting early, especially on a really long lap like this, is that until the leader pits, it could be hard to get a read on exactly how many laps you're going to get. Is it going to be a white flag at 30 seconds or 45 seconds? And when does the leader hit the lane once you factor in their pit stop? So it's a tricky spot for him to be in.
Battle's on for second and third right now, though. Ian Giebler has gotten right to the rear bumper of Justin Hall. If you believe the iRacing data, we've got Ian Giebler, Club Ohio, versus Justin Hall of Florida. I can definitely verify Justin Hall of Florida. Giebler, though, I think bringing some pressure to him here, has caught, like we said, over several laps consistently. Hall maybe runs a little wide of the left-hand apex there as they then cut back to what's a squiggly but pretty much a run back towards the pit straight and the start-finish line.
Yeah, to my recollection, Justin Hall has occasionally struggled in this NC to keep the tires underneath him. He's got kind of an attacking style when he drives. Gets it in there pretty deep and a little bit hard on the front end of the car. And I think that it's allowing Giebler to pick up time. Certainly over the last 5 laps, he's averaging almost 0.6 a lap faster than Justin. And some of that will come down to draft, but not all of it, unfortunately, for Justin.
So if those front tyres are starting to give up for Justin Hall, right now might be the time to pit, because when you take that fuel, it is possible to take tyres. That's something we saw Alex Albert do, but no, they'll keep the track position. Not necessarily a bad move around this circuit. Very difficult to pass someone, even if you are faster in the infield. Behind them, though, 4th place. Chris Flamian's going to pit. Joe Butler follows as well.
Yeah, and he takes that Mayo-themed car down the pit lane. And 2 tires up. We'll see. Jordan Butler, Jeeves pops in behind him and pops out some damage on his bunter. And then manually disconnects.
Yeah, and parks it. That's a surprise to me.
I guess he's done his 50%, so maybe that's where his head's at. But a shame to see him go because he was having a pretty successful race. Either way,
Flamian, though, is going to rejoin the race, and he is behind. Where is he rejoined? Definitely rejoined ahead of Alex Albert and David Martin. Oh, and Flamian immediately goes off the grass with cold tyres.
Mm-hmm. And Alex Crawford, another huge-ass driver, going to be right behind him. Crawford, completing the HJ Factor challenge by the looks of things. He's started at the back of the grid, put himself up nearly 18 positions before pit stops have really become a factor here. So props to him for some pretty solid and consistent driving with some pretty decent lap times to boot. Although they do look a little bit like a guy who joined in the last minute of practice. Giebler and Justin Hall are back to being glued together, though, at the front. Justin Hall actually took kind of a soft line into bitch that time, and Ian Giebler came flying up behind him. So curious to see. Maybe Justin's listening to my driver coaching here from the booth. Who knows? But either way, those two are still locked in a battle, and it would not be a top 5 without Zihao Liu and Charles Kowalczyk going at it just behind them too. Those two battling for 4th and 5th are glued together as well.
How much do you charge for your driver coaching? How much do I got to pay to not hear it?
Oh, at least a 2-4.
Okay, fair enough. One of the things that we have seen that Hall might be struggling with at this stage, it's that getting from the full braking pressure to then turning the nose into the corner, and this is a car that can have some strange feel there, particularly if the balance is already a little understeery. You've got ABS in this car, so you can lean on that a little bit, but then how you get out of the brakes as Hall goes for pit lane and Giebler decides to stay out. I think the right thing to do to just do something different to the guy in front when you see him pitting. So yeah, how you then roll out of the brakes and make the car start to turn can be a challenge. So I would suspect Hall to go for tyres on this one. The answer is at least the left-hand side of the car goes up. Fuel will be going in the whole time. Shane Cameron's pitted in as well, and Tim Wire. So popular time right now, it's 10 laps to go. We're past the halfway point of the race. There definitely looks like plenty of tyres going on there for Justin Hall. Car drops down, and almost the moment it drops down off the jacks, he gets going. So that's 24 seconds of service. Where's he going to be compared to everyone else who's pitted? I think noticeably ahead of Flamion. Flamion had that pretty scruffy outlap as well, so I wonder if coldish tyres, a different balance to the car immediately out of the pit lane. Justin Hall's a little more circumspect, which is the word of the day, and he'll baby it a little more on the outlap. Though he can't baby it too hard because he's at risk of being overcut by Ian Giebler in that battle for second.
And I think that's really going to be his focus here, because Giebler, showing extra pace relative to him, is now unleashed and setting some pretty quick and smooth looking sectors there as he flies around the track. Very interested to see how that one shakes out. And honestly, with Zihao Liu and Charles Kowalczyk having a draft at the draft, if those two are working together and maybe pushing each other a bit, they might even bring themselves back into contention for a battle with Justin Hall too. As we see those two.
Good. Yeah, this is good for Kowalczyk if he can go with Zihao Liu, because I think as this race goes on, Liu's becoming more consistent. Absolutely no doubt for the speed there. So not a bad place to be at all if you're Kowalczyk. Particularly, we had this big battle pack here that's been broken up by a little bit of contact, some pit stops. If it's tough to pass on track, then just doing something different through that strategy and these laps through the middle of the race when you've pitted and your opponent hasn't, or vice versa, is a good time to make some time on track when it seemed like it was difficult to do in the congestion.
Now, I'm not going to say it, but it is getting pretty dusky out here, and particularly on the downhill side of the Patriot course, it's downright in the shade, I'd say. So, we've only got 20 minutes left in this race, but that sun might be nearly fully down by the time we're getting to the final lap here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the headlights pop on, and if these guys aren't comfortable at any part of the track by the time those headlights pop on, then the muscle memory guys are really going to have an advantage in those last few laps.
We're at a simulated date of 5th of March. Is that because that's when Champ is here, or is that because that's the earliest in the year you can set it in the sim and not have snow? And then a simulated time of 5:27 at the minute. So, yeah, all the chance that we're still in sort of a winter date. And getting relatively late into the evening for that. More pit callers, and if anything, I'm surprised how many drives have gone much longer than this. McCormick's still out, Liu and Kowalczyk's still out, but Giebler just completed his stop. Andrew Kosick in pit lane 2.
Patrick Pursley taking advantage, putting himself back up into the top 10 there. He hasn't pitted yet in that baby blue car, but enjoying the running in the top there. Justin Hall is going to have to make his way around Patrick Pursley here if he wants to continue on. And critically, it does look like Justin Hall has gotten out ahead of Ian Giebler. So even though Giebler was able to get unleashed, for an extra lap there, it wasn't quite enough versus Justin Hall and his fresh tires to make a difference by the end of the lap.
Yeah, when you pit earlier than you necessarily have to, this is the situation you've got to consider. Patrick Pursley hasn't stopped. There's no blue flags. This is well and truly for position. So it is all on Justin Hall to try to pass here. It's not happening immediately, and Giebler will range up. Battle will resume. Now, of course, Pursley will have to stop at some point. That car's not going to make it to the end, but all the while, Justin Hall's, you can tell him thinking, can I pass this guy here? Can I pass this guy here? And he's, you try in one place, it costs you momentum. And now he needs to think about doing something different, backing it up a car length to try to get a good run off the oak tree. I think he's done that. just right to then look down the inside here.
Got to get some of that side draft. Come on. And this back straightaway does curve a little bit to the right, so there is a little time to be gained if you hug that right-hand side.
So no problems for Justin Hall. Giebler is going to dive in there as well. He smells an opportunity and, of course, doesn't want to get any separation between himself and Justin Hall. Hall picks up just a tiny bit of the grass on the far side of the curb there. You saw it pitch him sideways. We're in a rear-wheel drive car here, of course, as all good sports cars should be, but we will be in the front-wheel drive Volkswagen Jetta for a couple of races this championship, just to satiate our front-wheel drive racing aficionados. And your overall leader and your pole sitter and your defending champ is on pit lane right now to make his compulsory stop. Do you think we'll have everyone else follow in as well?
Gotta think so. I mean, the optimal strategy is, of course, drive it as long as you possibly can, so it makes sense that our leader would do that. Interestingly, a pretty short stop, nearly 7 seconds shorter than some of the guys around him. And also interesting is to see Zihao Liu, who did not stop this time, flying up to the back of Mark McCormick here. So these two raced each other plenty hard in the last round, and Zihao Liu came away with the win. But it will be interesting to see if either one decides to mess with the other a little bit as their strategies cause them to overlap on track.
Yeah, is there a better picture of how strong Mark McCormick's been here at VIR Grand West so far, that the driver that he battled so hard all the way to the end of the race with for the win last round, he's a full pit stop ahead of, with still 20 minutes to run in this one. It's been McCormick's race, and that qualifying I think was really, really important, because there are other tracks and other cars where you could make up 15 positions in 5 laps if you had your head down. It doesn't seem like VIR Grand West has been that kind of course.
Yeah, absolutely, and I really think that the battle pack that formed up there in the first half of the race was a real factor for Zihao Liu as well. Just costed him some critical time when he needed to be making time towards the front of the field. Speaking of battles, Justin Hall is lined up now right behind. Who's this? No, sorry, he's got Ian Giebler right behind him. My bad. As they head up towards the upper S's and glued together again. Giebler drops back a little bit, gives him some space as they head into turn 9. This butt clencher over the top of the hill. Track drops away. Justin Hall puts 4 tires off, but gathers it back in before sliding the thing into Oaktree. And he puts it in too deep. They both put it in too deep, and they both do the Alex Albert, put all 4 tires off. And now they're dirt tracking, trying to get the thing back onto the road. And they're going to let Patrick Pursley by. At least Ian Giebler is. And Justin Hall managed to carry a little bit more momentum, but both of them paying the price there. And really,
Flamian's bearing down on the both of them. He got a good run off of Oak Tree. He's got a whole heap of speed, and he's also going to try to punish Ian Giebler, but he's forced to go around the outside. Almost you needed Yakety sax playing as both of them went for a motocross, rallycross line on the outside of Oak Tree. We've seen it so easily done, and both of them, I think, realised when they're in a predicament and managed to avoid the wall, but you could see writ large, not a lot of grip on that grass, and both of them lost a bunch of time.
And it's such an easy thing to do. When you start pushing for pace in Oak Tree, it's going to bite you eventually, because it's so wide for the first half of the corner, and it feels like with that uphill that you can brake at the last possible second, and you can until you go 5 feet too far or 1 foot too far, and then all of a sudden you hook your tires on the outside and on that downhill, and this is going to be a little bit tight here for Chris Flamian. He's trying to make a move on Patrick Pursley up the inside, because it does get a little bit of racing room. But anyway, as you hook your tires over the outside of that curb, it just sucks you right off the road, and there's not a lot you can do to get it back.
I've driven that, you've driven that. I don't know about you, but the first 10 laps at a minimum, Oak Tree actually kind of scares me, because you see that wall there. You know that what's happened a couple times is a probability that you go in a little bit too deep and catch the grass. Big check up through the final corner there. Patrick Pursley trying to get to pit lane, and Ian Giebler not having it. Chris Knisley goes through there, but Giebler, oh my goodness.
Yeah, Giebler goes out into the weeds there, and He's going to get it pointed the right way, but he's crawling away real slowly, and I got to imagine that he's sending some fiery radio messages. Patrick Pursley needed to make pit lane because he hadn't made the pit stop yet, and he was going to run out of fuel, but oh man, you can't do it before you get clear, man, and makes contact with 1, 2, and causes some real chaos there in the top 5.
Pursley was looking for pit lane, therefore a little slower through the hog pen. Chris Flamion therefore bumped him, pushed him a little wide, went down the inside, and there wasn't really then a gap for Giebler to also get down the inside as Patrick Pursley went for pit lane. So cool heads needed to prevail and didn't. Still got to see how Lou yet to pit, but everyone else has in this race.
Yeah, I have to imagine he's doing a bit of fuel saving here and trying to find a clear spot to drop back into. So it'll be interesting to see where he shakes out. He and Shane Cameron. Was it Shane Cameron he was battling with right before? No, actually no. It was Ian Giebler he was battling with. I think before pit stops there. But anyway, now that that's all shook up, I got to think he'll have a nice clean spot to drop into. And interestingly, even with less fuel, albeit older tires, though I'm not sure, actually no, with the same age of tires and less fuel, Zihao Liu is still losing time to Mark McCormick. So really kind of a statement piece here for McCormick as he drives away from the man who gave him so much trouble at the last race.
Interesting battle pack forming over 7th. Jesse Elliott pitted a little on the earlier side, took fuel only, now being under pressure from some of the drivers who look like they've taken tyres. They've got Sean Saputra down the inside. David Martin behind next, I think, also took tyres, and Kosick, I think, didn't, based on the pit times I'm seeing. But David Martin all across the grass. It's a good move there from Saputra. You've got potentially a 4-way battle here. If David Martin loses out in the infield, super deep there from Kosick, who's going to have to be cautious to keep that on track. And hello, Tim Wyer's going to join them.
Props to David Martin there. I mean, the spiral's not really a place where you can go too wide, and I think he recognized that and just hit the brake and got to the right, out of the way. And I'm hearing that Zihao Liu has finally joined the pit lane, so he is not going to try and run this whole thing on 1 tank of fuel, even though there's only about 15 minutes left. And he's taken his tires and his fuel and going to get off the lane himself.
I think he might rejoin still in the top 5 here. Such is the way it's been.
Yeah, and that was even a pretty quick pit stop for him relative to some of the other ones, but not quick enough. Justin Hall comes flying by.
I think that's still not bad for Lou, though, because you remember he was sort of back in 12th, 13th on the first lap. He also really struggles with making turn 1. I wonder if he took some odd mix of tyres, like what warm rears, cold fronts might make you do that. We'll see what the balance looks like as you go on the lefts. That balance is all over the shop there on this outlet for Zihao. You're hoping that the pressures and the temps stabilise. But yeah, he was battling, over 10th in some of those packs, and he's gone longer. He's come out of this pit stop. He's in 3rd, and he's sort of 7 seconds clear of Cameron in 4th as well. So I think points-wise, championship-wise, that's a pretty good run. He's plus 9 spots.
Me and you are on the side of good racing, right? So let's give away all the secrets for the fast guys. That some of the fast guys on the series can or will take odd tires, a front right here or a back left there, to try and adjust the balance of the car while that tire is coming in and it's a little bit fresher than the other one. So Zihao might very well have done that, but I can say from personal experience with this NC Miata that it is one of the cars that doesn't really like it when you mess with the tires in that way. And it can be pretty unforgiving until those things even out. So I bet you he's feeling pretty bad if that's what he did.
So Sean Saputra got himself through into 7th and then cleared on out. Big checkup at the Oak Tree once again because Jesse Elliott stopped early under pressure from the next driver. It's Mr. Mint himself, Andrew Kosick, and I think Tim Wyer is also pretty quick and pretty aggressive in this group as well. He's slipstreaming up on David Martin, lost a position at this place on the track a lap or so ago when the track drops away a little bit on the exit, tempts you to run wide and onto the grass, which David Martin does once again, but to slightly less traumatic effect than last time.
Yeah, and this race just keeps on giving. These guys are really good together. Tim Wire, it's been kind of a pleasure to watch him move sort of up the field, not just in this race, but over the last couple of seasons that we've seen him at. The first few times that I remember seeing him in the series, he was a top 20 driver, 25th time in, time out, and today he's putting in a heck of a performance, battling for that spot in the top 10.
Ian Giebler, just a couple seconds behind these. He was fighting over that podium position. If his car's still intact, he might catch them. Wire hits David Martin. They're now side by side. That doesn't quite work at the top of the roller coaster. Kosick will be looking for a good run through the hog pen. This is a tough corner that you've got to get the curbs just right. He's not quite as close as that group behind.
And you can really see how blind that entire second half of the track is as we ride on.
Giebler finds the arm code.
Oh, and just as I say how blind those corners are, Ian Giebler shows us as he takes a little bit too much curb on the first half, and then not quite getting back to the apex on the right-hand side, and does that classic kind of drift on the exit of hog pen that leads you straight to that arm code every time. That's a real bummer for him. Oh, and as we jump back on board with 8th place, we see Jesse Elliott money shift it. Going into turn 1, and that motor is expired. Saw the rear wheels lock up and everything. He's not going to be able to limp that thing around, and he's going to have to get a tow back to the pits. If he hasn't used his fast repair, he might have a chance to rejoin, but that's going to cost him what was looking like a really impressive finish from him. And I don't think I've seen Jesse Elliott around in this series, so a real shame for him to throw that one away that way.
Yeah, what gear do you think he was looking for, and what gear did you think he got? Because, of course, these are a clutch and H-pattern gearbox in this specification of what was the Mazda MX-5 Cup car, the newest ND one that you can see racing on IMSA weekends and such, has a sequential gearbox where it's not possible to do that anymore. But what gear do you think he was looking for? What do you think he got?
I'm wondering if he's running a paddle shifter and just clicked one too many times on the way down to second and ended up in first. It's easy enough to do if you don't have the H pattern and sort of set up for your rig. Either way, we'll rejoin this battle as we see Andrew Kosick taking that Mosman car all the way off the track and letting David Martin by. Martin was a factor at the start of this race, running in the top 5, Virginia guy. Thought he was going to really be a factor, and then kind of had some issues there that cost him some time, but he's managed to drive his way all the way back up into the top 9 now. Top 10? Yeah, top 10. So pretty good result for him so far.
Wire also passed Kosick, and I can tell you from that 17-second pit lane time for Kosick that matches what McCormick did, that would have been fuel only. So you've got to think, depending on the driving styles late in this race, how are the tyres? Obviously, absolutely possible to go the whole race on the one set of tyres, and it is a slightly quicker pit stop too, it would look like, when you find yourself battling wheel to wheel like this. And as the balance of the car changes over the race, some drivers would want those tyres and that extra shot of grip later in the race.
Okay, let's jump up to second place here, where Justin Hall has been racing in isolation for a little while, but breathing down his neck all of a sudden is Yihao Liu, and looking at the scoreboards, looking at the lap times, nearly a half second faster than Justin Hall has been for these last few laps, and I gotta imagine that will accelerate even more once Yihao Liu gets into this draft. So, only 7 minutes left in this race, but it's gonna be a long 7 minutes for Justin Hall if he wants to hold Yihao Liu off.
Yeah, very stark difference in their last lap times as well. Hall's been just lapping around 3 minutes. Liu had a 2:58.5, so he's found the balance and the confidence in whatever combination of tyres it was that he took at the stop. Sure, a big lap here, but was a second and a half and some faster last lap. So that'll probably see him right to the bumper of Hall in very short order. A lot of goes on the brake pedal to make the car slow and rotate through Oak Tree for Hall. For Zihalu, far less movement and input required to help the car rotate. Both of them going to get around here by the end of the straight? I think so.
I think Aaron's given them a little bit of help. He's been a really kind of quality lapper, if there is such a thing. He's it's clearly learning his way around sim and has done a really good job of showing respect for the leaders as they come by. Regardless, though, Justin Hall is losing even more time, and Zihalu is now less than a car length behind. And here we go down that spiral. As you watch them, it's almost blind all the way, and especially once you crank in some wheel input, it can even be hard to see where the apexes are because your hands are in the way.
Ooh. This part where they are right now requires a lot of curb hopping to try to follow a smooth line through, and I think Lou's done it slightly better, but Justin Hall doesn't seem entirely unfamiliar with what line to take here. And then a section of track that we're far more familiar with as they follow as part of the North Course and then to the roller coaster.
And Justin Hall had his dramas here earlier in the race. Oof, and you see him even kick up a little bit of smoke. He landed so hard taking the inside curb there, but Zihalu's going to get a nice big draft coming down the front straightaway here. You got to imagine that he takes it too wide. Yeah, it goes to the outside. Justin Hall wasn't leaving him any room on the inside. And so Hall will have the advantage of the shorter run down to turn number 1, but Zihalu might have a little bit more on the brakes. We'll see. Ooh, when he gets in a little bit deeper, it's really hard to make this work from the outside, though. Lou is going to do it, though, and I think Justin Hall just couldn't track out the way he might have wanted to and had to give up a little bit there. And see how Lou makes a clean pass around the outside into turn number 1. Well done.
And we saw from that onboard there that exactly where Lou went for 4th gear in the braking zone is where Jesse Elliott presumably grabbed 2nd and popped the motor. So Zihalu up into 2nd place. If they finish as they run right now, we are going to have a tied lead for the championship. Some other drama out on course, because I see Shane Cameron and Alex Coffard both going for 2nd pit stops, and I don't think that's all.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what's happened there. I'm looking for it on my replays, but I'm also seeing that Alex Albert is suddenly a mile off the pace, just coasting around at like 60 miles an hour, and the car doesn't want to turn, and I wonder if there was some big contact between them. But Alex Albert, who had managed to recover...
Shane Cameron was spun, and Alex Albert collided with him in the infield. So huge damage to the right-hand side suspension for Albert, and I've got to guess that Shane Cameron had the same.
Yeah, Cameron got loose on the X, that left-right left that we were talking about, and Alex Albert came up on it real fast, just didn't have anywhere to go, and so he'll be limping his way around for the next 2 laps, and that's heartbreak for him, because after that early sort of issues that he had, he's suddenly going to be doing it looks like the off-road route all the way back in, is he can't get that car turned left to save his life. Has to resort to the dirt every single time. But checking back in on the leaders now, Justin Hall and Zihalu are still neck and neck, 40 seconds behind Mark McCormick now, who's well clear of the field. And it looks like that and the battle for 5th place are likely to be the 2 main ones we'll be checking in on to the last 3 minutes here. Justin Hall's checking the back sides of the curbs for a little bit of extra grip, but he hasn't found it yet.
Yeah, David Martin finds himself sandwiched between Sean Saputra and Tim Wire. He gets a bit of a run at Saputra. Tim Wire then is going to close in on all of them too. There's a few dented panels around by the end of this one, that's for sure. At the roller coaster, that's Martin trying to go defensive. For Tim Wire, that just means you can cut back tighter have almost full throttle all the way down the hill, and you've just got to think about how you negotiate hog pen to pick up speed onto the pit straight.
Nailing that exit is more important than anything around here. And we see, who's that diving to the pit lane? Sean Sputra has to dive to the pit lane. And
1 lap to go. Has he got a problem with fuel?
I'm wondering that, the first stop didn't look like it was particularly short, but sometimes a guy unchecks the box a little bit early and it costs him. Sure enough, this looks like it's splash and go for him. More drum at the front.
Got a gallon in the dump tank there. Has this race maybe gone a lap longer than some expected?
Could very well be. Either way, David Martin is cheering inside that car, I gotta think, because he went from 4th to 24th, and now he's back up to 4th place again. So a really, really positive outcome for him. And Tim Wire, like I said, on the fringes of the top 10, and he's got to be celebrated. Well, he's in the top 5. So really, really dark horse kind of results going on here as our front runners have just blown up in this race in pretty much every conceivable way.
Gonna have to check out how much time is on the clock when McCormick gets to the line, because I'm seeing that this ought to be the final lap of the race, but based on what some others are doing and still being 40 seconds now, are we going to get one more lap in this? The pace all race has been pretty damn relentless from Mark McCormick, very rarely dipping under 3 minutes, putting in a lot of laps in the 258s, 257s. So he's just got the roller coaster and the hog pen to negotiate. Is it going to be the white flag or the checkered flag waiting for him at the moment?
If we get the white flag, it is going to be chaos on that pit lane.
I think it's the white flag. I think our graphics overlay package would be already showing the white flag if it was confirmed. No. Checkered flag is waving.
Ooh.
And Mark McCormick is going to get the checkered flag, take the win for round 2, tie up the points in the championship. The defending champ gets his first win in 2022. Oh, so close to an extra lap. But that means it's the final lap for everyone else, Devin.
Yeah, David Martin and Tim Wire had to dodge some traffic there. Aaron Lineman getting out of the way once again. And all 4 tires in the air for Tim Wire as he takes every bit of that curb, trying to find some ground here as they drive up through the Patriot course and back on the way to roller coaster. Oh, David Martin and Tim Wire, who's it going to be? The two of them would both love to see this. This could be the best finish for both of them, either way around. Martin takes that trademark tight line on the way into roller coaster. Tim Wire's looking for a move around the outside, and Martin gives him a little room, gets a little tap from Wire. Now Wire's got the inside, heading down towards the first left before Hogpen, and Martin has to break out of it. Will he get the better run now? Oh, both of them going all 4 tires off in the grass. Tim Wire does it a little better though, and manages to get back going the right way. Andrew Kosick, who's in 6th place, is now going to be a factor for David Martin as he's accelerating down the front straight, but it looks like is he going to have enough pace? Kosick's creeping, not quite enough. Wish there was another 100 feet for him. What else we got going on, Haynes?
Well, the teammates from Love Racing of Kowalczyk and Sean Saputra are going to finish about a second apart. And I'm sure that they, like us, are equally disappointed by the fact we lost Nick Love earlier on in this race.
Yeah, it would have been a great team finish to have all 3 of them within the top 10. The 2 will have to do for today. Looking a little deeper in the field, we got a little battle by the looks of things between Cory Barrett and Mark Kruger. Mark Kruger, of course, a regular with Kruger Tuned Racing in ChampCar, as well as a SCCA Spec Miata racer, so familiar territory for him. And these 2 are battling hard over 20th and 21st place. Cory Barrett takes a little bit too much to the right and catches a lot of curb as they go through that left. And Mark Kruger's making up some ground here. And again, it looks like we're going to have the battle on the way up to roller coaster.
Yeah, it's all about can you get to the inside of the roller coaster, and this is a great example of how big this layout of VIR Grand West is. As the leaders finished almost 3 minutes ago, Kruger is going to look to the inside at the roller coaster, think better of it, but then Barrett drives it in a little bit too deep, and you never say never. It's a good run out of Hogpen towards the start-finish line if you can force a mistake out of your opponent. Oh, but you just can't get a run there if you're Mark Kruger. I think Barrett, if he's got fuel in the tank, and there's a few drivers who might be concerned about that on their final lap, can get to the flag. I think he just successfully checked up Kruger through the final sector there, and Cory Barrett's going to finish in 20th, plus 10 spots. Mark Kruger in 21st. Those are our last drivers on the lead lap. So just as we get that orange hue in the sky and head towards sunset, we can check out our results from round 2 of ChampCar iRacing Series for 2022. An hour of VIR Grand West in the NC Mazda Miata MX-5 Cup. It is Mark McCormick who grabs the win. See how Lou in second, both of those drivers with a win and a second place in 2022. The form drivers to keep an eye on with 14 rounds still to go. They're going to be equal on points after 2 races. Justin Hall completes that podium. Then Tim Wire, David Martin, Andrew Kosick, Christopher Flamian, Jay Safianek, Charles Kowalczyk, and Sean Saputra, our top 10 Two Love Racing cars to finish out the top 10. Lee Moorman from Daring Greatly Racing in 11th. Then got Brandon Marshall, Patrick Persley, David Warden, Neil Hancock, Greg Vandervert, Scott Grinnell, Thomas McGinn, Alex Albert, the 2020 champion, down in 19th, and he had big damage at the end there. We saw Cory Barrett snatch and hold on to that 20th from Mark Kruger.
And just to shout out our cleanest drivers of the race, Patrick Persley and David Warden take the title, along with Mark Kruger, all 3 of them having only 2 incidents on the whole race. And our hard charger award today, even though it looked like it was locked up for Alex Crawford there for a bit, is actually going to go to Brandon C. Marshall, that local Virginia racer, according to iRacing anyway, manages to put together a solid effort, moving from 26th all the way up to 12th place. Great job, Brandon. And with that, I think we got to go looking for some interviews, eh, Haynes?
Yep. Let's see who we got standing by. And the answer is our full podium. Going to use the trademark David Haynes method and go 3, 2, 1. Grab our 3rd place finisher, Justin Hall. Justin, first time that the ChampCar iRacing Series comes to VIR Grand West, and there are a lot of corners around here. How'd you find it?
Yeah, familiar with a good number of them, but yeah, there's a couple in the infield as well as bitch that are quite difficult. Um, yeah, you know, I felt pretty good overall, but Mark was just he just really had it down. I had nothing for him.
Some battles for you against Zihao towards the end there, but also earlier on in the race with Nick Love, Alex Albert, others. What's it like to race around here?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It definitely tightens up there in a few places, but there's plenty of room to go side by side, and yeah, a lot of strong competitors here, and yeah, very happy with how things turned out.
Long season, we've seen plenty of you. Consistency can be key for the overall championship, but also there's that draw prize to happen as well. Is that your goal for the Champ Car iRacing Series 2022?
Yeah, I'd love to say that I'd be able to win a few races. We'll see what happens. Certainly, don't want to rule anything out, and the door prize is always a backup. So definitely looking forward to the season.
What about the Champ Car Endurance Series this year? Are we going to see a little bit of Justy on track?
Yeah, yeah. Not sure where exactly. Have to figure out vacation time and car availability, but definitely going to try to get it back out there.
Awesome. Look forward to seeing you for plenty more races in this year.
Yeah, thanks, David, and thank you guys for everything you do, putting us on.
That feels like the first time I've ever had Justin Hall call me David and not Haynes. It felt a little weird, but let's move on to Zihao Liu, second place today. I think that was a pretty important recovery for you, given it now keeps you equal for the championship lead when McCormick could have taken it away.
Yeah, I definitely take this P2 actually. So this is actually my literally my first time on VIR. I didn't practice before. So I just took 15 minutes after I joined and practiced some few laps. And yeah, didn't qualify well, but yeah, I'm learning something, learning how to drive every single lap, and yeah, and save some fuel. And I'm pretty happy to actually pit Mark Piddell, and I actually drove behind him. And I actually learned a lot from Mark. So yeah, I think that's how I actually ended up P2 overtaking Justin. Yeah, I'm definitely this P2. I definitely take that.
Some perhaps less complicated and more familiar tracks coming up. Next round, Summit Point, then Daytona, then Lime Rock Park. Tracks that you might look forward to. You are obviously now 2 races equal for the championship. I suspect we're going to keep seeing a bit of you.
Yeah, I think at Summit Point, Daytona, this track, I am really familiar with that. I think probably gonna have some battle with Mark if Mark's here. Yeah, I am looking forward to joining this race.
That delights me to hear, and anyone else who loves to see a good championship battle and some good racing. Congratulations on plus 10 positions today and keeping some of those championship dreams alive.
Yeah, thank you.
Devin Peters, I'm going to give you our race winner and defending champ, Mark McCormick.
Well, I gotta say, Mark, that was a heck of a performance out there. First one across the start-finish line, first one after the pit stop, and first one at the end.
Yeah, that was a good run. I can't believe Z managed to get all the way up to P2. That's crazy. So congrats to him on that. And I guess we're tied in the points now. Going to be a long season with him around. And bummer about Nick Love getting disconnected, man. I was looking forward to racing with him the whole time.
Yeah, we were pretty bummed to see that as well. But a really strong performance from you, and got to feel like it feels good to show Zihao what's what, because up till now I think he was 1-0 against you, or 2-0 against you, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, he hadn't learned the track, whereas I love VIR, so I have tons of laps here. The layout is unique. It's my first time on the layout, and there's a lot of time to be gained on those kind of quirky bits of the track. So there's kind of a lot to learn if you don't know which way the corners go. But yeah, definitely going to be a long season with him around.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, we're already excited about the prospects of this championship battle. But yeah, you definitely showed your pace out there today. Any observations beyond Mark and Zihao there as you were watching in your rearview mirror?
Shit, man, I was just focused on hitting my fuel marks and just gathering up some data for the championship, you know.
Well, great job out there today, man. It was a pleasure to watch you run away with this one. Anyone you need to thank for today?
Of course, you guys for organizing, putting all this on, and my wife for putting the kids to bed so I could qualify.
A worthwhile endeavor indeed, especially when you put down a qualifying lap like that. Thank you very much.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Devin. Thanks to all of our drivers who graciously make themselves available. And we can't take all the credit, or in fact, most of the credit for organising the championship. A lot of that falls on Tom Ellison, and he hosts the sessions, keeps the forum post going, etc., etc. So you should head to forum.champcar.org. You can find all the information about the ChampCar iRacing series in 2022. Reminder, we still have 14 races left in this championship. You only need to participate in 12 to have your name in the hat that Bob Varsha might draw out and give you a free entry into the ChampCar Endurance Series, the affordable path to real wheel-to-wheel road racing. So that's exciting. Next round coming up, like we mentioned, Summit Point, March 9th in the Volkswagen Jetta. We get some of that diesely front-wheel drive action in Summit Point is in West Virginia, isn't it? But it's not far from Washington, D.C. So that's round 3 coming up. Hope to see you then. We'll have, of course, a live broadcast here on HJBC. Hopefully, strong turnout for that one. Much simpler track a little bit further down the road. I've been David Haynes, Devin Peters with me. Thank you so much to Kyle Smith joining us to produce coverage today on relatively short notice. What a legend. We look forward to seeing you next round for ChampCar iRacing Series Round 3 in 2022.